Okay, so yes, back at it again. This is my go at E is for Escher. So I've been looking at Escher tiles and how they repeat and how they are non-static grid repetitions. So what I have done is just taken his bird pattern, as you can see here from, it's a broken reference image, so I'll just get rid of that one. And which one was it? Birds. So here's the bird pattern, and I'll hide everything else. So here, just try to light it up on the bird pattern to get that sort of repeating pattern that goes on and on and on. So if I select it, you can see the outlines. And really it was just trying to sort of, get it so it repeats in a consistent way. So here, expanding it one way and then the other, which I know it doesn't seem particularly exciting, but I'll just leave it at 4x4. And then I've got a bit of spacing, which does nothing from memory, 0, 0. And I can turn it into actual full tiles, which is basically, instead of the outlines of 3 around a circle, I've got 6. If we actually look at how I've constructed this, this is probably the third one I should do, but so I'll jump back to it. The next one is, of course, fishies. So I'll hide that and bring up this. So here you can see the repeating fish pattern. Again, this is just a tessellation of nothing. Oh, whoops, I'm manipulating the wrong thing. Select the fishies. Oh no, it's just an array. So the arrays, this one, and also the lizard shapes, if I can get these things working right, are really just an array. But the bird pattern proved to be a little more interesting. So I'm going to stick with that. Because, I'll call it birds anyhow, I ended up trying to explore geometry nodes and how this could possibly go together. And out of the 3 outlines that I've worked on this week, it's sort of something that I thought would be somewhat interesting. So here are 2 versions of this. The switch here decides which one will happen. These are basically my tiles. So here I have a set of 3 tiles, JF3 tiles, and the other half of this is 6. Not much to it. I'm going to stick with 3 because it's easier to perceive. Then I generate a row, instance on rows, adjust the set position because this thing is rotated around a critical central point. So if I reduce those both to 1, you can see there's just that. Then, if I increase the column amount, it works its way along, jumping up and down. So here I'm just taking the column amount and setting it all up with these values based on what I thought was the dimension of the actual bird thing, because I've only really drawn that one. The rest is just repeated. So here, bang, and then offset every second tile. So I'm using the index modulo 2 to shift it down so that these 3 are the next ones that are brought online. So you can see that lot come in and then that lot. So it's doing every second tile, and if I keep increasing the number, you'll see them oscillating back up and down to fill out the pattern. And then I actually generate all the rows. Boom. Nice and simple. So that was, I suppose, my first crack at Escher tiles. Well, the fishes and lizards were the first crack, but then the birds starting to muck around with geometry nodes. Where it gets a lot better, and I'll just hide everything else, are these ones. So the first go was actually these triangular tiles, these tessellations. I'm not too sure why that's there, so it doesn't matter. So this is actually buried a couple of layers deep, unfortunately. So I'm going to dive right to the lowest layer. The first layer, and I select the tessellations, drop the tessellations to 1 column and 1 row, just an individual tile. As we increase the columns, you'll see it alternate and flip it up and down, and that's all I'm doing in this case is adjusting the Y scale by -1 to create this flipping effect. Now, when I create my mesh line, I'm using however many this is, divided by 2, and then take the ceiling, so this will, if it's 7 divided by 2, it rounds it up to the next thing, so what, 3.5 becomes 4, so we've got 4 in the bottom row, and then 3, or 4 in the bottom part, and then 3 in that part there, which is the floor value here. So quite like that to sort of offset it all up. And then it's just basically carry along based on that. So this sets up an individual row of tessellations. And you can see that just there. And all I've done is just name all the stuff going into and out of this geometry group. So moving next layer up, I have my rows that will tessellate like this, but now I need to have a regular row, if I can F2, L-A-R, is it? Regular row? That looks about right. And a mirrored row. So the first row, which is this one, if I increase the value from 1 to 2, I get a reflected row above it. And again, it's the same trick with the -1 on the Y scale. And that's pretty much how this thing works. I can also have this offset value, and the offset value, that becomes noticeable. Oh no, it goes right down to the bottom layer. So here I have an offset. So here, this is my, what tells me how wide a particular triangle is, and then I offset it a little bit to add the stuff around it. So here with the offset, you can slide to expand and that sort of stuff. 0.2, I'll leave it as is. And then the top row, yep, is really just finding some basic stats about the spacing of these sort of things. I'm suspecting that this is not the best solution, but it gave me what I needed for this setup. Moving along, we have two variations of the same sort of tiles. These ones going along, then up, and these ones going up, then along. So here, and this is a deconstructed node tree. As you can see, it's a bit long. So, first off, I have one triangle that I created. So if a diamond I created, which is this. And I'll just drop that to 1 and 1. So you can see this is the basic shape. So I'm moving that away from its center. So this is the origin of the object, and all I'm doing is faking it, sliding it up a little bit, which is all of this. Then I do the threefold symmetry. So I'm basically rotating it around this point here. And so this is just the index, converting it to radians, so it's 120 degrees, flip, flip, flip. And it's just on the Z direction, and that sets up all of that. Then grab the actual size of this entirety, i.e. all three, and work out the bounding box and all that sort of stuff to work out some basic stats about, or how wide is it, how tall is it. But this is just the distance from there to there, or from there down to there. Then I create an individual column. So I grab the columns from the input over here and adjust based on my offset, which I should probably just grab and slide over, but it doesn't matter. Anyhow. And again, just generate these points and some fudge factors to sort of get it working the way I want. So as I create the column, it gets pushed up. Not too sure why I went with that direction, but it doesn't matter. I offset every second tile, as I talked about just earlier, and then I create the rows. So here, one row, boom, 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 and then that sort of thing. Not overly exciting, but again, it also has the spacing. Pretty simple. This one, same thing, but because the actual existing triangle is on the x-plane as opposed to y, or x direction, these ones are just swapped, really. All I did was basically make sure that I moved it to x instead of y, which you can see if you have a close look at these trees, and you can grab them again, threefold symmetry wrapped around that center. So if we drop both of these to 1, you can see there's just a single one. And then again, some basic stats, generate an individual row, so which takes the generate a row from the row value and then generate columns, offset every second tile. So as I go along and increase the columns, it goes up, then the rows it goes along. Pretty simple, really. It just took me a bit to work out because, you know, as I said, I'm still trying to work out this stuff out for myself. Then it's finally this one. I wish I could have a better solution, but if I switch this to here, and I haven't actually applied the image maps yet, but you can see here if I go to this one, I've just taken an image and projected on here, so I've done a huge amount of subsurface subdivisions and then used a displace image map, which is this one. And then I use some geometry nodes to turn it into a tile set, basically, so that if I go to the tile spacing, got spacing between the tiles, but I forgot to include the things to include how many. So if you can see here, stretching off into the distance, if I drop that to low numbers, that becomes the number of columns, or no, the number of rows. So rows, and the second value will be coming off the second mesh line, which is all the way over here, which is columns. And so if we go here, I can drop the number of columns down, so we've got one of each, and that's the actual tile itself. And it becomes more interesting when you actually add more together, because then they form the complete picture. And that's pretty much it. The only thing I'll do to this is I'll actually just add that image to the texture. So what's shading, select the right thing, new, and then I just need to create an image texture. So it's what, image texture, take that, connect it to the UV. That's very, very dark. I should connect it to that one. One would hope so. There's the fishies, done. I suppose I could make it more exotic and exciting with adjusting all these values, but since I want to talk about geometry nodes and not much else, I'll leave that as it is. There are plenty of other tutorials online that allow you to do this. The only hassle I have with this is just the sheer number of vertices. So if you can see here, 500,000 just on this object, it's by itself. Whereas, if I bring up the statistics. So this one has 500,000. This one, no, that's not right. All, yeah. So this one's 300,000 faces, whereas this one, it's 3. And then I think I even applied a bevel to that. Oh, it's got no thickness. Oh, I thought I put thickness into these things. Oh, not hard to do. But that's pretty much it, and I've probably talked long enough as it is. Enjoy the rest of your day.